business economics. Upon graduating from UCLA, he served as the director of the UCLA African Student Union SHAPE program. SHAPE stands for Students Heightening Academic Performance Through Education. SHAPE has been serving the youth of Inglewood and in Los Angeles for 10 years with free college counseling, skill building workshops, field trips, and more. After those 2 years, Jullien joined us at Stanford University, and we are thankful to God that Jullien joined us at Stanford University. He has put a lot into this community, even as a master's student. A lot of times master's students, PhDs, they get busy. They're on the grind, as the students say. But Jullien never lost touch with the undergraduate student, being a role model for them, helping them through their scholarly pursuits. I present to you, Mr. Jullien Gordon.
First and foremost, I want to give thanks to the Spirit that gave me this message to share with you today. And secondly, I want to give thanks to the Black Graduation Committee for giving me the opportunity to address you. It is truly an honor to be here before what I consider my community. The title of my speech is called The Spirit of Potluck. Life is a three-course meal. We must always remember to feed the mind, body, and soul. The developmental stages of life often lead us to only focus on one source of nourishment at a time. As children, we only worry about physical nourishment. As students, we tend to focus on mental nourishment. And as we age, our focus shifts to the spirit. As graduates, we're entering a vulnerable stage of life, where physical nourishment is assumed, learning tends to slow down, and spirituality rapidly declines. I'm here today to remind you that at each stage of life, we need a balance of all three. The first course of tonight's meals are the physical foods. They include fruits, vegetables, grains, and meats. I'm sure that this weekend has been a weekend of feasting and celebration with family and friends for all of us. Whether your plate consisted of traditional Southern foods, jerk chicken, rice, beans, plantain, or bono soup, or beans, or tibs and injera. All traditions of the African diaspora revolve around food. Soul food, as we call it in the African American community, is not something that you buy. Soul food is something that we co-create together. And we take foods in their rawest form and put love and energy into them to make a meal. Like our ancestors, we must seek to regain an intimate relationship with Mother Earth and the land that abundantly gives us these gifts. For no matter how many graduates sit before us today, no community can be totally free when it lacks the basic knowledge of how to feed itself. Our second course consists of the mental food. It comes in the form of wisdom and knowledge, the byproducts of elders, experience, and education. For the past few years, our minds have been ignited by this stove called education. In the same way that food is prepared, school has served as one way of mentally preparing us for service to the world. Similar to how the degree of temperature affects the state of food during preparation, our degrees have the ability to affect how the world receives us. We must each ask ourselves, when my life is fully digested by my children and community, and all that remains in me is dirt, what lessons do I want them to harvest from the seeds of truth that I planted and cultivated with my life? Culture is a remnant of lessons learned by those who came before us. It is an iterative process that shapes us while we simultaneously shape it. Thus, if life has taught you something valuable, let the way you live your life serve as an example of how deeply you believe what you claim to believe. Integrating truth into our daily lives is the best way to transmit wisdom from generation to generation. Spirituality is not only the third course of tonight's meal, but it is the main course. Our spiritual food comes in the form of prayer, ritual, song, and worship. It's no secret that African people are among the most spiritually rooted people in the world. We play significant roles in the Christian, Muslim, Rastafarian, and religious sciences communities. Regardless of what you believe, I ask you this question. When I achieve all of my financial goals in life, what is it that I will seek next? Whatever that thing is, be it God, purpose, knowledge of self, or love, I challenge you to seek that thing first. Centuries ago, one of our great spiritual teachers once told us and encouraged us in this when he said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and its righteousness, and all those other things will be added unto you." My time here at Stanford has shown me that my spirit is at its healthiest when I'm in relentless pursuit of my purpose. The theme of this year's Black graduation is unity without uniformity. Here at Stanford, we're in a melting pot of people, culture, and ideas. In a melting pot, the ingredients do one of two things. They either blend in and assimilate, or they stand out and add a distinct texture or flavor that make the final dish memorable. Will you and I conform, or will we preserve our character and culture while we simultaneously engage with the rest of the world? As people of African descent, the original women and men of the world, we're the hosts of this global banquet, yet we are hundreds of years late for our own feast. Our guests have already arrived and are awaiting us with their unique contributions at hand. What will we bring to this potluck? Or will we be empty-handed? To the graduates, I pray that each of you sees your degree as an invitation to the world table and humbly accepts the call on behalf of all African people in the advancement of humanity. We are who the world is waiting for. What will we contribute to the world table? Thank you.